Hello, everybody. Welcome to our inaugural Untitled Moffett Library podcast project of sorts. For the time being, that is the name of the podcast. So let's go ahead and get our acronyms started here. I'm Chris DiPanetta. I'm your host for the day.
And I'm Ryan Samuelson. I am the bibliographic instruction librarian for Moffett Library.
You'll notice that I did not start with my own title. That's because I'm merely a lowly library assistant for the time being. I'm actually in library school right now, hopefully to rectify that situation, but we'll see where it goes.
Although the interim director has decided to start giving you guys little titles. I think yours was the information literacy assistant or something like that.
It's something in that realm. Theoretically, I'm the public services assistant, but I also do a little bit of tech services stuff here and there, and I was working on events and program planning for a little while, but our current situation has it such that we don't exactly want to flood our beautiful new building with people that we really can't handle at the moment.
For those of you who are tuning in wondering what the heck this is, we are Midwestern State University in Wichita Falls, Texas. Well, this is the library podcast that we're starting up during the age of Corona, I guess, or the age of the COVID virus. The idea is just to get the information out there to people in a timely manner, and we're trying something new, and we're going to see how it turns out.
We would like to help keep you informed of what's going on in this building, and there's actually quite a bit that's happening right now, so we wanted to get that information out to you in as quick a manner and as efficient a manner as possible.
And according to your template,
yes,
this is the part where we talk small. We do small talk.
Yes, the smallish discussion. We have a glorious Google Doc which will be guiding our way through this discussion. That's kind of how this is going to go, I think, for the most part. We don't want to get too bogged down in us just doing small talk, but that's kind of what we do as library staff. That's a big part of our existence, is parsing through small talk and parsing through information.
With that in mind, how are you doing, Chris?
Well, we talked about this a little bit before we started reporting the podcast, but I was doing a lot better until I got my grades today. And this isn't a matter of just being completely blown out. It's my professor found a small chink in the armor, and it's gotten into my head. It's living rent-free right there right now. So basically, as part of my my library classes, I have to find information through specific sources, very, very specific sources. In fact, if they want something found through a dictionary, the answer has to be given through a specific dictionary. But what happened was, okay, to back up a little bit, I've been working in libraries for 7 years now. I started in 2013, and I think I actually literally just passed my 7-year mark. And one of our information, I wouldn't say sources, but one of our lovely acronyms that we have, of which there are thousands, is the LCCN. That is the Library of Congress catalog number. And for whatever reason, I had that mixed up with the book call number, which if you're going to come in our building and you're interested in finding a book, the call number is the wacky little set of letters and numbers that you'll find on the side of the book. Or if it's a really, really thin book, it'll be in the top left corner of the book cover. And not having an actual formal education in this until just now, I always got those two mixed up. So not only am I embarrassed that I got a small amount of my grade taken off for that, I also just had 7 years of knowledge that I didn't actually know completely crumble before my eyes. So I'm a little humiliated, but in the long run, I think I'm glad to know this information.
For those who don't speak Deep Inetta, what he basically said was he got an A instead of an A plus, and it devastated him.
I got an A, and my professor said, "I bet you wish you had known this before, huh?" But a little bit of humility goes a long way, so it could be going worse. Outside of the class stuff, COVID has me living in a constant state of anxiety, but we're doing a great job here at the library. Things are clean. The people are mostly being calm and respectful. So in the long run, I think it's gonna work out really well. And right now, it's looking pretty good. So it just is what it is. How about yourself, Ryan? How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm busy, and we'll get to that probably in the Q&A portion today.
Oh,
a lot of people are asking questions. A lot of people are confused about things. So hopefully, if someone's listening to this for fun, they'll all maybe get a little bit of knowledge in as well.
Yeah, that will be fun. And libraries aren't just, well, they're not just a place for finding books. They're a place for gathering information and learning new things. And one of my favorite parts of this is that we kind of curate content. We're not just a repository of information. We also have things that we can give to the public that are not exactly something that you would think of with libraries. Not the classical definition of them, at least.
Yeah. Well, do you want to talk a little bit about what our plans are for this podcast, what we're going to try to do, or the overall goals at this point? Again, this is the inaugural launch. We don't know where it's going quite yet. That's kind of strange that we've launched the boat, but we don't quite know where we're going with the boat yet.
We'll figure it out along the way. So yeah, we're kind of just we're spitballing here. We're kind of just going through the basics of what we do here and what we have to offer, but we really don't even know what our name is going to be. So listeners, please, if you have a good suggestion for a title for this podcast that's not whatever 10-word long project title I introduced us as, please feel free to shoot us a message. Maybe we'll look at those, potentially find one that we really like. Right now, the one that I'm leaning toward is just simply Club Moffett Talks, because here at the library we are Club Moffett, and we'd like to get to know you better as Club Moffett.
Well, I, on the other hand, am leaning towards Study Pod People.
Study Pod People.
Mostly because it's a reference to Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yes. And
there's a great line toward the end of it where the late, great actor Kevin McCarthy starts screaming, "Listen to me! Listen to me!" And I really want to use that as a drop during our thing to have people listen up to things, which I might do anyway. I might have at least maybe have the Study Pod moment or something like that, Pod People moment, where I can have it. Kevin basically exclaimed that people should listen to me about something important I'm about to say. So this might be something we might put up on social media. Keep in mind, we are recording this probably about a month in advance, so it might be a while before we get back to you on what the populace has decided to vote on and stuff like that. But we are maybe planning on putting up a poll up on social media to see what people want, and if the people decide that we're going to call it something weird and bizarre, we're not calling this the Potty McPodfaced podcast, though. That will not be one of the options.
Yeah, it's not going to be libraries to the library at the library. We'd like it to be something that actually has a nice ring to it. Also, if anyone's listening and you have a fun idea for an audio stinger or something that uses that sample, please send it in to us. That would be really nice for us to be able to incorporate that. We're always looking for something fun that the students would like to show to us or help us with. Because otherwise, we're just a couple of old chunks of coal sitting here screaming at the wind.
Okay, that's kind of mixed metaphors, but all right.
I know it was. I'm just kind of. I have a problem with rambling, which hopefully this podcast will not see that much of. But as you all get to know me, you'll know when to just kind of roll with it.
Or have me step in to kind of rein him back a little bit, maybe.
Please
all
do.
Right. Well, that's been about, not quite 10 minutes, but that's maybe finished up the small talk portion that we decided to do. And again, it's mostly just talking a little bit about our week. One of the problems, of course, is we do work together, our offices right next to each other. And so we do actually small talk a lot to each other. In the future, we might stop asking each other how they're doing in the morning so we have something to talk about on the podcast. But for now, that's probably that section. According to the template you have written up, now is the what is happening this week portion of the podcast. First off, what exactly did you mean by that? What do you hope to accomplish by that portion? And what should we talk about this week?
If there's something that's going on in the next few days, I think, since we're thinking about releasing this podcast every Thursday, so that would just be like at the end of the week and then the start of the next week, what we've got going on. That way, if maybe there's something that interests you that's going on next week and you need the weekend to maybe think it over, then we're going to give people time to know what's going on in the building.
Would you like me to add something to that? Something that is happening this week? Because I have a news bulletin.
Oh, please.
A news flash bulletin. This just in, and literally this just in, when we started the podcast, this popped up in my chat line. The director has invited the history club to meet in the library, to have their meetings in the library in this semester. Yeah, so maybe that something will come about from that.
Is that available for the public? Like, can they come in and?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Check it out?
Now, again, we probably need to talk about what's going on in the library as far as social distancing and things like that as well, though.
Right, because that was another thing that we brought up was just one of the things I think we need to talk about is the COVID update. If there's anything that maybe is impacting our building or anything that we just found out about, we need to probably drop it here in this section.
Just to answer that question, they're going to meet in the library every other Thursday at 7 p.m. and the first one is September the 22nd.
Oh, that's soon.
If anyone wants to attend, it will be in, well, she says leisure reading. The problem is that area really isn't leisure reading anymore, but oh well.
Which leads me to wonder, are we going to put our bestsellers books back in that area, or will they be placed somewhere else in the building?
That would be a question for the great Dan Winslow, who is a collection development librarian, who decides what new books that we buy for the library. He had historically maintained a small shelf of all the new books that have come in back in toward the front of the building, and then all the older books that we've gotten in were back in the area that we used to call leisure reading. We'd have to breach him about that question about where we want to put the new books here in the library.
Okay, you know what? I'll mark that down. Whoa, I just minimized my window. How terrifying. I will mark that down as something that we should ask him for next week.
Also, I will point out to myself that apparently I'm going to do a lot of editing for Chris and stuff. Where he says, "Oh, I just minimized my window." That's something the public doesn't need to know, nor do they need to hear about this little rant I'm doing right now about my future editing. So I will be editing this podcast.
That'll happen. I have so many interjections that just come out naturally that we'll probably end up having 2 hours worth of content that need to be funneled down into an hour, which will be easy to do.
Yeah. Anything else you want to speak about that's going on that's going on here in the library?
Well, I think we need to just kind of talk about maybe the basic details of what's going on with our COVID policies. This is obviously students. This is not permanent. This is not something that's going to be a part of our lives forever. Hopefully. We'll see how it goes. But for the most part, this is just temporary. once things get back to normal, we can start loosening up some of these policies. But for now, we do ask you to come in with a mask. Everyone here at the library working is wearing a mask. They better be, at least.
Well, I will point out that some of us are in our offices not wearing masks, but the minute we step out of the office, we do put a mask on.
Yes, because for someone like me or for someone like working in the back, we would literally just be sitting in a stuffy box, breathing in our own filthy air. So for that case, if a student decides they need to come in and chat with us, if they have questions about something, we'll pop the mask on as soon as you come in. It's not that we are above that. Don't take it the wrong way. Don't take it as that. It's just we're here for 8 or 9 hours or however long we're going to be here for work. But as soon as we step out of our offices, mask comes on. That's just, we ask everyone to understand, be patient with us. We're trying our best. We'd like to make sure that everyone feels safe when they come in here to the library. And for now, that safety is hand in hand with everyone participating with this very few rules that we have in place, actually.
Well, let's talk about some of them. The big one that people are going to ask about is the study rooms. Currently, the study rooms are only available, the individual study rooms are only available for one student. The larger study rooms and the new study pods, which are these large open study areas that have a lot more stuff in them, are only available to 2 students. If you are here with a group that has more than 2 people, we ask you to study out in the open. Again, COVID tends to spread in enclosed spaces, so we're asking people who are meeting here in the library with large groups to please talk to each other from a safe distance in a larger open area. And we do have plenty of areas that can be used for that purpose.
Oh, yes. The second floor in particular, that's our big study floor. We have a lot of space for that.
We have removed a great deal of the seating here in the library. And again, that's to try to encourage people to try to maintain distance from each other. We've also got the study lab has reduced its occupancy basically right now. We do ask people not to sit next to each other in the study lab as well. Not study lab, the computer lab.
Upstairs, by the way, just in case anyone's unaware, we just finished our really huge renovation. It's kind of heartbreaking that as soon as we reopened with this amazing new space, we kind of had to close down a lot of it just to make sure that everyone's safe and comfy here. But yeah, the computer lab is now upstairs next to the rare books room, whereas it was like immediately to your left when you come into the building.
I'll also mention that we have also, with the renovation, put in a lot of new Wi-Fi hotspots throughout the building. Well, people before were trying to find those prime areas of the building where they could sit and actually hook up to the Wi-Fi. It should be more universal now. You should be able to sit almost anywhere in the building and be able to hook up to the Wi-Fi here on campus. One final thing, which is a big policy that does not really impact our students, but it's a major policy, is the building is closed to anyone who's not a current student of MSU.
Right, and we apologize for that as well, but we're trying our hardest. And also, we will know if you're sneaking people in. just to point that out, like these study pods are like 90% window. We can see if there are more than 2 people in there.
And when you realize it's a pain for a lot of you guys, but keep in mind, even if you're not afraid of for yourself, there are employees here who either themselves are immune compromised or have loved ones who are immune compromised. And we're trying our best to make sure that people here don't get sick. That's the ultimate goal, not to inconvenience the students or just to pull rules. Again, we are trying to look out for a lot of the people who work here. Their spouses or loved ones or people in their care are prime real estate for COVID-19 to take root.
We are library people. We apologize for that. We know it's inconvenient, but please understand. Plus, I mean, you think about your peers. Think about the other students here in the library. Like, even though most people here are going to be in their teens or 20s or what have you, most of our patrons will be. We don't know what everyone else is going through. We can't assume that everyone's going to be fine, even if they catch this. So think about your peers. We have faith in you.
Okay, let's get off the depressing stuff and move on to Topic number 3, Q&A or guest. Well, I have a few questions that I think need to be answering this week if you want me to tackle those.
Hey, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. One of the things I get now is we do not currently have a reference librarian. And because I am situated directly behind the reference desk, my office is, I am catching the majority of the reference questions in these last few weeks. And the biggest question people are asking is, how come I can't get into the databases?
Yes, that's actually our number one Q&A question on our LibAnswers website.
You can also go to the helpful video list we have off our website, and the number one video off of there is how to log in from off campus. The big thing to understand, guys, is that you guys pay for those databases. They are not free. They are not a free internet resource anyone can use. And you have to jump through a number of hoops, basically, to get everything situated correctly so that you will have access to it. But once you do that, and once you figure out how to do it, it's fairly simple. And once you go through all the steps, you will have access to everything, and you can do it from the safety of your own home.
And we are aware that students are kind of unhappy about that. We had a survey not too long ago to just get a feeling for how people feel about our library website, and there were more than a few answers that came from students saying that they did not like how many steps you had to take to get into those databases, but that's just the way things are, and if we can make it easier, we would.
And we've reduced the steps by at least one in the last few months. So again, we try our best to reduce those steps and make it easier for you guys, but just be aware of the fact there's a few steps you have to go through to get everything lined up correctly. And again, we do apologize for that, but again, it is a matter of software and making sure everything works correctly and things of that nature.
Right.
Let me talk about the second most popular question. It's a question that's come up a lot this particular week. And that is, how come I can't get full text for this article?
What do you mean this week? Don't you mean eternity?
Oh, I'm just saying I've gotten 3 questions in the last 2 days on that question.
This is the forever question for all internet or database searches.
People are upset because they go to the databases, they pull up an article, and the full text is not there. That happens with a lot. Depending on what database you're in, anywhere from 5% to 95% of the articles in it will not be full text. So just be aware of that fact. There is usually a limiter somewhere in the database that you can click on. It's usually off to the left-hand side, a little box you can click where it says full text. And from then on, you will only pull up the full text articles. Yeah, now, some students say, why in the world would you include stuff that isn't full text? That goes a little bit into the history of the databases. Originally, the databases didn't have any full text. And this is something that's developed organically over the last 20 years or so, where databases have added more and more full text to their holdings and stuff like that. And it comes down to things like copyright and publishers wanting money and things of that nature is ultimately what it comes down to.
Yeah, and I think everyone here in this building has had to deal with that at some point. I certainly have multiple times. That also just gives you an idea of what's being written about right now.
Yeah, I will point out that one of the things that is being talked about a lot in libraries and universities as well is they're not happy with this. They realize the students aren't happy with this. The faculty aren't happy with this. The librarians are not happy with this. And there was a big push in the last couple of years for something called open source journals and things of that nature. A lot of journals have started up where basically they allow anyone to access their material and stuff like that. Basically, what's happened is the way it's done historically is that publishers had the printing press, and so they could dictate who got published and who didn't. That is not the case nowadays. A lot of universities are realizing that. A lot of professors are realizing that, and they're putting their work out there for free. But again, that also requires money and resources to have those archives and have those things available. But in case you're wondering what the future of libraries is, I think sometime the next 10 years, next 20 years, we'll see a shift over to free and open resources as far as scholarship goes and things of that nature.
I think the one unfortunate side effect of that is that you're going to lose a lot of the peer-reviewed databases. And that's something that your professors are going to harp on forever. You're going to need to find peer-reviewed sources of articles just to make sure that the research that you're using and utilizing, it's actually from a trusted source. a lot of these resources that are not free at the moment, they're not going to quite be peer reviewed.
Oh, that's not necessarily true. I think a lot of just to get in the more technical side, some of the universities are going with the idea of like dissertations and things of that nature, making those available to the public, and those go through a peer review process and stuff like that.
Okay.
Or if they're doing research, they're thinking about developing something like an internal peer reviewed process that the people can go through. Now, again, the problem with that is only the large state universities can really afford to do that sort of stuff. But I don't know. It's something I've been reading about in the library literature about what the future of libraries might be and the future of academics.
Interesting, and that's something I'm going to have to keep in mind for my classes. There's a huge focal point in discussion of what exactly will libraries look like in the future. And just as a place that has books in it, I think that's going to slowly evolve. It even is, even in our library, that's not quite the case.
Well, for years, the idea is that books would become less and less important. One of the things I think you've seen in the last couple of years is a shift back toward books, mostly because there's a new generation coming in. There is the Generation Z's coming in, replacing the millennials at this point, and they have a slightly different value system. They tend to value books much more than online sources, where the millennials tend to value online sources over books a lot of times. So we'll see where that goes. But again, also COVID makes it difficult for people to actually get a hold of their hands on the actual physical books. And that is just to let people know as well. The majority of books that Moffett Library owns are electronic. They're online. They're not physical books. People who say, well, how am I going to hold my books for my classes? Again, I will point out that the majority of books that the Moffett Library has access to are online. Now, again, does not mean they're free. I'm not talking about internet resources. I'm talking about resources that we pay for, where the entire PDF of the book is available online for a person to look at.
I have to stop you there. Technically, we don't pay for it. Our listeners do.
Yep, you guys pay for it. The students pay for it. So if you're ever wondering why your tuition's so high or why those fines and fees are so high, we can, in some other future, when we can talk about money if you want to, how much this stuff costs. It is not cheap. Guys, it is expensive as heck.
I will give a preliminary no thanks. But I think we'd have to get our databases librarian in to really talk about this further. But we had a pretty big weeding of our physical journals right before we renovated the library, and it really did not cut down on the list of total articles that we have available.
The faculty were really upset about that. The students didn't care.
The students did not see any changes to their research.
But again, some of the faculty are kind of like, well, that's not the way I did it. Well, things change.
We can't just hold on to the way things were, because new technologies, new ways of thinking, that's going to push the old way out one way or another. If it's organic, if it's like the COVID situation where necessity makes us change things. I heard recently that some companies were talking about, before this all hit, how difficult and how time consuming it would be for their storefronts to go fully digital or to incorporate the nature of like online ordering and shipping. And as soon as COVID hit, they had their storefronts up within a week. So just the nature, the availability of these resources online, it's making us see a sea change that's a lot faster than we would have with emerging technologies in the past.
Mm-hmm. Any other Q&A you want to tackle? Anything else that's popping up you think people are asking about?
Well, one of the big ones, our library hours. When are we open? Historically, we've been open until 2 a.m. And I think just the way things are, we don't want to have people in here.
It's more than that, Chris. It's the fact that we need to have the cleaning crew actually come in and scrub stuff down on a daily basis to keep stuff clean from stuff like that. And that's, I think, the biggest reason why we're not open until 2 a.m. That gives time for, again, our custodial staff to come in here and kind of clean up and basically hopefully make things a little bit safer for people coming into the building.
Yeah, they do a great job. They're here and up to the late hours of the night. If you wanted to thank them for all they're doing, feel free. I'm sure they'd really like to hear it because they are making sure that this building is operating at maximum efficiency.
But they probably won't let you ride the vacuum cleaner Zamboni.
I would love to ride that thing. I don't even want to turn the vacuum on. I just want to see, I just want to know how neat it is.
And unfortunately, this is one of the problems about doing this podcast. I had someone sitting at the reference desk for a second. I was about to ask them if they needed help. And unfortunately, hopefully they went over and saw Emily.
Leave that in.
Leave that part in?
Yes, leave that in.
We are understaffed right now. A large number of our librarians have retired recently. And because of that, we are a little bit spread thin. So keep that in mind. It's best to try to contest. Oh, she's back. Hold on. Let me stop for a second and see if she needs some help.
Okay, I'll mark this down. 34 seconds in, we'll edit this. I hope that in this recording, when Ryan comes back to edit it, I hope he can hear all of the minute little sounds happening in my office. Like this one. I don't know if that'll come through in the recording. So when I got hired here, when I first started working here, one of the first things that you told me was that here at Moffett Library, the staff wears many hats. And,
yes, we do.
And unfortunately, because we've had so many staff changes in just the last 2 months, that's an extra hat that we've all had to put on.
Just to let people know, I immediately got up and left my office and was completely bombarded by multiple questions from multiple people. Again, we're a little understaffed right now. I do have a new question for the Q&A, though.
Oh, wonderful.
A lot of people are being told that if they need a webcam, they can come to the library and use a webcam here. That is true. We do have webcams that check out. They only check out for 4 hours, and you would have to hook them up to a laptop or use one of the computers upstairs to use them. The computer labs and the laptops both should have the software to run the webcams on, but again, the webcams only check out for 4 hours.
We have a huge amount of digital media like that, or electronic devices that you can check out, in fact. And I think in the near future, I'd like to have Emily, our media librarian, on just to talk about everything that we have to offer with the media department. It's more than you think. We have a LibGuide, actually, or a research guide that shows you exactly what we have. It is enormous.
Yeah. You can get that by going to the Moffett Library homepage. It'll be toward the bottom on the various links. One will say research guides. It's on the left-hand side underneath research databases. If you click on that, it'll bring up our large list of various guides we have for different things.
We actually have a huge amount of LibGuides, and they're full of very useful information. So I encourage you, even if you're just listening to this podcast and are curious, I encourage you to go and just see how many research guides we have. You might be surprised. You might find some information in here that's really useful.
As I was saying, we are a little understaffed right now. The best way to find out stuff from us is probably to email us, honestly. I hate to say that, but again, I'm recording this in my office. Unfortunately, it's right next to the reference desk. I have to stop in case someone asks a reference question from the middle of this podcast. Also, I'm getting chat line stuff on the chat line. My phone's probably going to ring at some point during this podcast of someone trying to get more information. Again, we are a little understaffed. The best way to contact us is probably through email, and it might take a little bit longer than what you're used to. Just be aware of the fact we are understaffed. We're trying as hard as we can. We'll try to get back to you as soon as possible, but we're stretched a little thin at this point.
If you go to the library, I don't think it's just the homepage. If you go to, where is it? Yeah, I guess you can. Any of our databases or just any of our library links that we have, you can chat with any of us, any of the library staff at any time. There's always going to be someone monitoring this chat.
Not true, Chris. If
is it not?
If they chat at 2 a.m. in the morning, there's not going to be anyone in the chat.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's a very fair point. As long as we're open, there's going to be someone monitoring this chat line, but you're right.
Well, again, there should be. Again, we are understaffed. There can be situations where it doesn't happen, in which case that chat line goes immediately into email. I've answered 2 chat line questions that were after hours that went immediately into email as well.
Thank you for that correction, though. That's a good point. At this moment, there are 3 people monitoring the chat line. We tried to make sure to divvy it up, so there's always going to be someone on here as long as the library is open. But yeah, that's a very good point.
Should we move on past the Q&A at this point, or do you want to keep going?
We need to probably divvy it up. I think that people would be interested every week to hear something new about the library, some new, just general question that people have, because you can kind of see them coming in waves where a lot of people will have the same question kind of at the same time, and it's a little remarkable. But yeah, let's keep it brief for now. We never, I mean, you never know. Maybe we won't have any questions that are unique in the near future. Maybe we will, but we'll see. Also, this is about the time in our future podcasts where if we decide to have some sort of guest on, if there's someone else in the library who's interested in maybe talking about their department or something that they've got going on, we'd have them come in and introduce themselves. And
now, personally, I think we should have that person come in at the very beginning. I think the small talk at the beginning would help from having them involved and giving us more, because we're going to have stuff to talk about. Neither one of us is that interested.
Oh no, I'm definitely not. But no, don't take me the wrong way. Of course, we'll have them on for the entire duration, but it's just a matter of whatever it is that they are here for. We'd probably put it around this point.
Okay. Happening in the future. You want to talk about the Moffett movie Madness that we're thinking about doing?
Oh boy. So historically, you're gonna hear that a lot from me. I think for the very near future is like, well, back in the day, before the Troubles began, here's what we used to do. And one of the major programs that we've had, this has been going on since I've been here, I know it's been going on since before I got here, is the Moffett Movie Madness, which our media librarian usually curates the films, or she discusses with professors which movie that we want to actually show for either a class or, just whatever occasion it might be. We can't really do that right now as it is. We have a problem of seating, I think. Right now, the idea, as far as I'm aware, is that the Movie Madness would be relocated to the computer lab on the 2nd floor. As you mentioned before, the computer lab has drastically reduced seating, and we don't want to end up showing a movie that at most like 15 people can actually sit down and watch. Because then we would still need to make sure that everyone's social distancing, that everyone's wearing their masks. It wouldn't be very fun, I don't think. And when we do these programs, we want to make sure that they are fun. So what we decided we wanted to do was that we still wanted to interact with you, the students. We wanted to have something fun that we can present to you, especially with this movie event. We've shown movies for the longest time. At first, we were talking about the Netflix party. That was the new hotness, but we don't really know if that would come off too well. We don't know how many people would actually want to participate. But we did decide on something that we think would be pretty fun, and that is the library commentary track. Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Well, we've talked about a number of different things. I think at this time, we're thinking about doing a public domain film so you can actually have the film up at the same time you can see the reactions of the various librarians to the film.
You can react with us. You can watch the movie kind of alongside us. It wouldn't be as great as watching it live. We all miss having our live stuff right now. I'm certainly hearing it from my wife constantly that a lot of the things that we, like a lot of shows that we would want to go see or something just literally do not exist right now. So this is not exactly a replacement, but it's something that we thought we would like to extend to you.
And the first one's going to be around Halloween?
The way things are looking, by some grand miracle, our date for this thing, if we only do it this one semester, our date for this would land at the week, maybe even within 3 days of Halloween. So I think we've talked a little bit about it. We've discussed what we would want to actually make a commentary track of, something that's, like you said, in the public domain that we can actually show to our audience and it not just be a black screen or just a still image of us with our mouths hanging open watching a movie. It would be the actual movie with our commentary, or maybe our reactions in a little corner of the screen. If you know what a commentary channel on YouTube looks like, it would more or less be that.
And I think the films we were looking at were stuff like Last Man on Earth, Night of the Living Dead,
Manos, The Hands of Fate.
You want to do Manos, The Hands of Fate? We might put up a poll. We might put up a poll for this.
That's on the short list.
Little Shop of Horrors, the original. And I want to do the Max Fletcher Popeye and Superman cartoons from the 1940s.
Oh, I'd love to do something.
I think that'd be fun.
I'd love to do something with Popeye.
Well, these weren't full feature films, but they were short films. Each of these is about, some of them were about 15 minutes long. So yeah.
Yeah, that would be fun.
It'd be a medley of them and stuff like that. I'm thinking, again, some people are pushing for stuff like Last Man on Earth or Night of the Living Dead. My problem with that is it's very COVID-19-ish. I think something for Halloween that'd be really good, that's kind of a middle ground, would be something like a Little Shop of Horrors, I think.
Now, for me, I love Night of the Living Dead. I would take great pleasure in watching it. But I know that for a lot of people, a movie about a group of people stuck in a small space while a virus ravages the area around them and terrifies them might be a little tasteless. I think.
Also, the ending. I'm not going to give it away, but the ending, yeah, with certain things going on in the United States right now, the ending is a little.
It might, yeah. That one might actually cause some problems, depending on how you interpret that ending, which Romero says was not the intent, but who knows? And we certainly can't ask him anymore. And the way his film output was in the last few years, I don't know if he would give the same answer that he would when he made the movie. So that's up to the audience, really. If you're listening to this, if you have an idea for something you'd like to see, please send us an email, talk to us on social media. Really let us know what you want.
I will point out, though, that if it's not in the public domain, we will not get the broadcast rights for it. So it'd have to be one of those countdown, and you'd have to watch it off of your whatever media or streaming service that you have. At the same time we're watching it, we would not be able to reproduce that the actual film for you in any way online.
And that's kind of the mission statement of the library, right? We want to give you stuff that you don't have to drop a lot of money for it. You don't have to sign up for anything. This is something that we have for you.
And that's one of the reasons we're focusing on public domain. And I think there's enough there. If we only do one of these a semester, there's enough there for several years.
There is, if we did one a semester, this would last for decades even. So there's more than enough. There's going to be something that you, the listener, will find that you want to see. That I can guarantee. What's next? What's next week? Is there anything? This episode will go live on, I believe, October 8th. Is there anything in the week of the 12th that's happening that you know of?
Not off the top of my head. Did you want to plan about something? Did you want to, we knew that for this first one, we were going to talk a little bit about our plans and how we wanted to do this. We ended up talking a lot about just basics about library stuff. I know that at some point we did want to talk about movies. We did want to talk a little bit about stuff like that. I know also you said you wanted to start doing fun stuff like what's your favorite horror movie for Halloween or something like that, which I think we should look at as well. But for next week, I don't know. What do you want to do?
That's a really good question.
You had also talked about maybe we each do a piece of media every week that we wish to highlight.
Absolutely, yes. So since we're kind of, it hasn't even actually been an hour yet. We were thinking about having these podcasts last for about an hour, something that the listeners can chew on for a little bit.
What you don't know, Chris, I've actually been paying very close attention to time. And if you haven't noticed, I've been after every 10 minutes, I've been bumping us on to the next little thing that we need to talk about.
Oh, good. So, yeah, I'm a bad host.
That's why I'm here again. This is something I do also when I'm doing instruction. I have to keep one eye on the clock and keep moving forward. So again, I'm used to it.
Yeah, I am the backup instruction person. So that's something that I'm trying to learn as well. So yeah, is there anything you want to highlight? Anything you want to talk about that you're kind of invested in this week?
Something I'm invested in this week. I am invested in just getting through the week. Again, we're getting a lot of people trying to use those databases for the first time this week, and they're running into problems. Or they're not really so much problems. They're unaware of how to do it.
Yeah.
Again, I'd point you at the lib guides, the research guides that we have on our webpage. I'd point you guys at our video series. I created a brand new series for freshman instruction. So if you're a first-time student, this is the first time being on MSU campus, I advise you going to those videos, looking over, clicking on the Moffett Library video link and clicking on the actually Moffett Library, the channel we have, and looking at our playlists. We have one playlist which is specifically for freshmen on how to, not only how to use the databases and find them, but how to evaluate the stuff you get off the databases as well.
Can I just say, do not hesitate to actually talk to us.
Oh, yeah.
That stereotype of the stuffy librarian shushing people, we do not do that. We're not going to be like that. We actually like to talk to our students. We like to know what their perspectives are, what their, what it is that they actually like to do, what they're interested in. That's kind of what we do here as content curators. We're interested. So don't be intimidated. If you're worried that you're not going to be able to find what you're looking for, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you. We want you to succeed.
Although, to throw a wrench in whatever Chris says, which apparently my thing now that I'm doing for this podcast. If you are up on the third floor, that is our quiet floor. If you do make a lot of noise up there, we will come upstairs and tell you to shush. But again, majority of the library, you're free to talk. We won't shush you. But again, we do have areas of the building which we do consider a quiet area for those people who want to go someplace where it's going to be very quiet and they want to make sure that other people around them don't talk. So again, I will say he is 90% correct. We will not shush you unless you're on the third floor and making a big ruckus and people are complaining about you, in which case we will go upstairs and shush you. But again, yes, we are trying to get away from the buns in hair, pearl glasses on a chain, shushing elderly matron librarian.
Yeah, we do not want to be the librarian from the beginning of Ghostbusters, because that ghost was pretty cool. But yes, there are a plethora of signs up on the third floor that it's very difficult to misconstrue. They, like, every 3 feet you'll run into some kind of signage that says, "Please be quiet." And if the signage doesn't, someone upstairs will tell you to be quiet. And if they don't, they'll come down here and ask us to. But that's generally never a problem. I have not really seen an issue of a lot of noise, with the exception of the point in the semester, I think it was, last fall? Oh, geez, was it a year ago now? Where the third floor was literally the only space that students could go to study.
Yeah.
That point, yeah, there was a problem of noise, but we also made it clear, like, we can't do anything about this. Like, this is something that this is just going to be how it has to be for the next few weeks.
I'll also point out that a year ago, both you and me had our offices up on the third floor, and we are not quiet people. It's one of the reasons we were picked for this podcast, is because we are very loud and noisy people that can talk your ear off for hours.
4 hours loudly, yeah. It got to a point where I think you were talking to our nighttime circulation manager, in our office, and I was coming up from getting a drink or something, and I heard the details of that conversation in the hall next to our office. So, yeah.
Are you saying we have thin walls? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that the walls can speak. The walls have a story to tell, and it's usually about what manga I'm reading that week.
Yeah.
That's all our library can talk about.
Well, I find that's the one thing you and me tend to talk about most is what manga we're reading most recently and stuff like that. But we'll save that for a preview of what some of the future podcasts will be about, because I have a feeling that many of them will be about the various media that either you or me consume on a daily basis.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. I'm rewatching Lost, and I don't have anyone to talk about it with in the library right now, which for that show was kind of more like I don't have anyone to complain about it with.
You want to know what I've been doing today?
Yeah, what's up?
I have been listening to the audiobook of Dune while working on it.
Getting ready for it.
Students, yeah, apparently.
Listeners, please go check out the trailer for the new Dune movie. At this point, it's been out for a month. If you don't know about it, that's going to be, you know what? I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it with confidence. That movie's going to come up against Empire Strikes Back for me as the best sci-fi film ever.
It's a little bit like Star Wars crossed with Game of Thrones, if you want to know what it's kind of.
Oh, do you think? They wouldn't know really what Dune is about. They don't. It doesn't have that media saturation like Star Wars does.
Most people know it probably from the Lynch film, but the Lynch film was 40 years ago, or 35 years ago. So
not only that, but that's an Alan Smithee film.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's not a film that most people will know about because they've.
Well, again, if this podcast is about explaining information or going on information, why don't we close out with you explaining what that means, what you mean by that?
Alan Smithee is a popular pseudonym. I'm not looking this up on Wikipedia, by the way. This is literally just me talking about it. Alan Smithee is a pseudonym for film directors who just cannot confidently put their name on a film because either the studio meddled in it too much or they're not proud of the work that they did for it. It is their way of distancing themselves from the product that they worked so hard on. David Lynch's Dune is probably my favorite example of it because he has since talked about how embarrassed and how ashamed he is of that movie. He talks about how to make a movie and how to catch ideas and all this stuff. And one of his big pieces of advice for everything is don't let anyone take away what is yours. And the thing that he always talks about is don't let anyone take away final cut from you. In film terms, final cut is that you, the director of the movie, get to look at the product, like you get to look at the edited film, and you get to say, okay, I don't like this part of it. So you're going to take this out of the movie and you're going to add this, you're going to edit this scene together. And for Dune, he was not allowed final cut. So that's like me writing a script or writing an outline to a book, handing it over to someone else to shadow write it or what have you. So many people have shadow writers for their book, and they turn around and turn it into a 3-part fantasy epic when it was supposed to be your biography. And you turning around and saying, that's really not what I asked for, and this is not what I gave you to work on. That person says that's too bad because that's what you're getting. Now, when it's a matter of a multi-million-dollar film and you have multiple entities who have no interest in working together, that turns into a disaster.
Oh, I thought the film wasn't that bad.
A lot of people, a lot of people actually like that one. They like Sting's contribution to it. Actually, I think The Atlantic had an article today that said something to the effect of Sting's Speedo is the greatest sin committed against the Dune franchise.
I will point out there is, I think it's called the South Korean cut, where
yes.
they did a 3-hour cut of the movie. That one, again, there's a lot of stuff that was added to it as far as like a narrator and some other things as well. But that one I thought was a fantastic cut of the movie. And again, that used a lot of the scenes that David Lynch had originally filmed, but were cut from the final cut. I don't know how he feels about it, but I thought that one was pretty good.
The weird thing about that movie is that because it's not the final cut of the film, there are a lot of missing effects.
Yeah.
Like the least of which being that they didn't add the blue glow to the character's eyes in post. But there's a lot more to it than that. You know, the weird thing that I'm seeing with this is that not only is that version of the movie 4 hours, there's also the sci-fi miniseries, which is, I think, 4.5 hours, or it was about 4.5 hours when it aired, and about 5 hours when they did the extended like DVD cut or whatever. That's just about 2 films worth of footage.
Yeah.
So the fact that they turned what should have been 2 movies, or the one movie the length of 2 movies, into like an hour and a half thing really goes to speak to how much was left on the cutting room floor.
And with that, I think we're out of time. But again, you'll get to learn what our loves are, what our hobbies are, what the things that we're really passionate about. And as you can tell, Chris is very passionate about David Lynch films, and I'm sure we'll hear more about that in the coming days and months.
Listeners, if you find an affordable copy of Inland Empire, please let me know. I'm so sick of watching the YouTube poorly uploaded. Well, I mean, the movie looks bad on purpose, but someone has like a VHS rip of it or something, and that's the only way that I can watch it. So please. Listeners, you're also going to find how we enjoy the types of things that we do, and that's something that I think is going to be really interesting, because then you'll get to
you need to bring your wife up for that one. I think she should be our special guest for the day on that one.
No, she will not. I will not have her tell me that Lars von Trier has anything of value worth saying.
But let's save that for the future.
We'll save that. We have a lot planned there. I'm very excited for people to really dig into this thing. We're going to deliver this podcast to you every week.
At least try. Again, it may be different during intersession or holidays. We do work for a large academic library, and we're going to get 2 months off. We get 2 weeks off come Christmas, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah. So if we do end up putting out something in that time, it will not be school related in the least. It will be an extra topic, but we'll try our hardest to do right by all of you. We hope that we can give you a lot of really useful information. That's why we're here. I've said it multiple times in this podcast, and I'll say it multiple times in the future, but we're here to help you succeed and help you find the things that you need.
Maybe he is. I'm just here to have fun.
Yeah, I hate fun.
All right.
See you all later. Thanks, Ryan.
Sure. Bye.
Bye.